States. It's Mark from the United States.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Mark from the States. How are we doing today? I'm doing fantastic. I hope you are as well. Thank you so much. Come sit with me on this big fake couch. We did a little bit ago a video on York, and excuse the heater that's going to be popping on here in a minute. Was shown in that video briefly, Clifford's Tower, and many of you mentioned, oh, Clifford's Tower, I've been there or I haven't been there. It's really not what it used to be, or it's worth going or not worth going. You had a lot of opinions on it. So friend of the channel's TheUntoldPast has a video on, and you know me, in castles. So he's got tons of videos on castles. If that is something that you love, which I do, I love the castles, and for whatever reason, I've just kind of gotten steered away. I used to watch a bunch of his videos about the castles because I love learning about them, and they're just, history, which is awesome. I haven't seen one in a while, and so boom, here we go. York. The algorithm has brought me back to TheUntoldPast. This is York's last castle, Clifford's Tower, and I'm going to get to learn a lot more about this today. I'm excited to do so. Hopefully you will get something from this video. I'm sure there are many of you who know the ins and outs of York and its castle, Clifford's Tower to be exact, what we're going to watch today. But I'm sure there's some of you out there who may learn something as well. So that is awesome. Learning. That's what we're here to do. So please, before we go to TheUntoldPast channel. It is, of course, linked in the description to his channel and to the video we're watching. I encourage you to go watch the video first and come back and watch with me. I also encourage you to go support the original content creator. He's got tons of stuff. It's important that you go and support his channel. Just one like really makes a huge difference. So please, I encourage you to go do that. When you do and you're done, come back, watch with me, come sit on this big fake couch, and let's check out Clifford's Tower. Let's do it.
The city of York is home to a vast amount of history. Today it is the location of the Jorvik Centre, the Shambles, and also the incredible York Minster. Interestingly, a castle once stood in the city of York.
Before we continue, yes, it is not Shambles Street. And I may have said that last time out of habit, because we here in the States add street or road or drive or avenue or something to every name. But the Shambles, that's what it's called. I want to go there. The video that we watched before on York really piqued my interest on wanting to see, and I saw the Christmas market video there, and yeah, it just seems like an amazing place, and this is going to put it over the top for me for sure. So cool.
However, today very little of the fortification exists except for its keep. Known as Clifford's Tower, the keep has been the site of some extremely brutal events and holds some interesting secrets. Many visitors today will visit the keep in order to get a spectacular view of the city. However, its history is much darker and less innocent. Join us today as we investigate the history behind and show you what is left of Clifford's Tower and York's lost castle. If you do enjoy these videos, please support the channel by subscribing. York in the 10th century was a Viking capital, and throughout the 11th century remained an important northern Viking stronghold.
It doesn't look like, if you go up to the top of the keep, it doesn't look like you're going to get this view. But that is awesome. We just did a video on London's free views, and this is, while not all the tall buildings, is just equally as splendid, because it's just, for me, I look out and I see nothing but history, and just so much there written and unwritten in the landscape, just with York Minster, right? That's what that is right there. I believe, right in front of us. I'm hoping I'm right. The cathedral, um, church, whatever we're calling it. It's just beautiful, though. Just, yeah, very, very. I don't want to say simple because it's not, but just it's like I said, a huge difference between this and New York, or New York, of course, big difference. The two different Yorks. That's not what I really meant to say, but I meant to say between this and London. Just such a contrast of views, but just no less important. Just incredible, though.
In 1068, William the Conqueror would build a number of castles across the northeast of England, including one at York. This initial castle was the basic motte and bailey structure built on the site of the present-day castle. It was built extremely quickly, in allegedly only 8 days. The motte would have originally been around 200 feet wide at its base, and hundreds of homes were destroyed for its creation, which greatly annoyed the locals.
I'm sorry, I keep muting it because of the heater, and again, I am so grateful to all of you for allowing me to have the heater on. It's cold. A lot of you have made the comment of that it's kind of hollowed out, and here we are inside. It looks pretty amazing. Now, granted, it's not a full-on castle anymore. What's left, you have this keep, and it's pretty awesome. I mean, it's definitely well worth for me. Maybe not for some of the seasoned tourists to see, but for me, would love to visit here. And you see, it does look like it has a lot of displays to where you can read up and see what's up. But yeah, it's pretty awesome, pretty impressive here.
William Mallet, who was a sheriff of Yorkshire, was placed in charge of the castle and successfully defended it against an immediate uprising by the locals. The following year, William would build a second castle in York to improve his control over the city. Later in 1069, a Danish fleet would sail up to York along the Humber and the River Ouse and attacked both of the castles. This was done with the aid of a number of local rebels. In order to drive the rebels back, the Normans burnt many of the city's houses. This fire grew out of control and also set fire to York Minster, and some historians argue the castle caught fire too. Both of the castles were then captured and dismantled, with the sheriff being held hostage. William's brutal harrying of the north would then restore order to the city and allow the rebuilding of the two castles. The Domesday Book, written in 1086, states that York Castle was also surrounded by a water-filled moat and a large artificial lake. Over time, the second castle, which stood on Bale Hill, was abandoned in favour for the first castle. In the 12th century, Henry II visited York Castle 4 times throughout his reign. At this time, the royal chambers were inside the keep, and Henry paid £15 for the keep to be repaired. Near to here, castle mills were built to support the garrison, and the Knights Templar were given ownership of this part of the castle.
The Knights Templar. Wow. That's a big name from the past. I don't know too much about them other than from like Dan Brown books. That's Da Vinci Code, that sort of thing. But yeah, I can't remember if might be the first time in one of the videos that I've actually talked about them, and not in some fiction novel. This is it's pretty impressive, though. Yeah, I can see why some people might be down on it because it's just a circular building left that's empty. It's like hollowed out on the inside. There's really nothing. But I mean, for it's certainly not going to be an all-day thing. But it's really still pretty sound structurally. At least that's how it looks. I don't know. You'll have to let me know. Maybe he'll let me know if there's been rebuilds since those days. But this is pretty. It's been around for quite a while.
In 1190, York Castle would become the scene of an extremely disturbing and horrific event that today is sometimes forgotten in the canon of English history. York Castle was the location for one of the worst pogroms in the medieval period.
Oh boy.
The Normans had introduced the first Jewish communities to England, and some occupied special jobs, such as moneylenders, which was an essential but prohibited activity. Throughout this time, English Jews were subject to religious prejudice and worked from towns within a royal castle. This could provide them with protection against acts of persecution or attacks from Christians. Richard I was crowned king in 1189 and decided to join the Crusades that were occurring across the Holy Lands. This decision allowed anti-Jewish sentiment to grow. Rumours would then start to swirl that the king ordered the English Jews to be attacked. In York, the tension broke out into violence. Richard de Malbis, who owed money to a powerful Jewish merchant, Aaron of Lincoln, exploited an accidental house fire to incite a local mob. They would attack the property and family of a recently deceased Jewish employee of Aaron of Lincoln. Joseph York, who at the time was the leader of the Jewish community, led the local Jews into the royal castle, where they took refuge inside the keep. It was at this time that the angry mob surrounded the castle. The constable then left the castle to discuss the situation. When he intended to re-enter, the Jews refused to let him inside the keep, claiming the angry mob would then enter the keep. The castle's constable appealed to the sheriff, who then called his own men out to siege the keep. This siege would continue until the 16th of March, and the situation for the Jews looked extremely dire. Their leader, Rabbi Yom Tov, proposed an act of collective suicide rather than being killed by the mob. Heads of households would then kill their own families before killing themselves.
The
William Keep was then set on fire to prevent their bodies from being mutilated after their deaths. A few Jews did surrender, however were killed by the angry mob, even when they promised to convert to Christianity. In total, 150 Jews died in the massacre. In the 13th century, King John used the castle regularly and kept the castle's keep in good condition. At this time, the first recorded use of the castle as a jail appeared, and Irish prisoners who were captured on John's Irish campaigns were held here. At this time, crossbowmen and knights were also stationed in the castle to protect it. Henry III visited the castle at Christmas in 1228, however a gale destroyed the wooden keep. In 1244, Henry ordered the castle to be rebuilt in white limestone, which cost around £2,600. The construction included the building of a towered curtain wall, a large gatehouse with 2 towers, 2 smaller gatehouses, and a chapel, and also the stone keep. During Henry's reign, the castle's prison was the scene of a number of breakouts, and when the Knights Templar were dissolved, York was used to house many of the arrested knights. During Edward II's reign, the castle was used as a site of execution for the rebellious barons he encountered. During the 1400s, the castle fell into a state of disrepair. Richard III recognised the issue, however his death at the Battle of Bosworth occurred before much of the replacement work could be carried out. Throughout the Tudor era, the castle continued to be used as a prison or for a place of execution. By the 16th century, it was traditional to execute traitors by hanging them from the top of Clifford's tower. In 1536, political leader Robert Ashe was executed here on the orders of Henry VIII, following the failure of the Pilgrimage of Grace, a protest against the dissolution of the monasteries. By the end of the 16th century, the Clifford family, who were the Earls of Cumberland, became the hereditary constables of the castle. This is where the keep gained its name, Clifford's Tower. During Elizabeth I's reign, a public scandal arose when the Alderman of York accused the jailer, Robert Redhead, of trying to demolish the derelict tower. He was selling the stone off for lime burning. During this time, proposals were made to demolish Clifford's Tower, however these were turned down. In 1642, Clifford's Tower was occupied again by a royal garrison during the English Civil War. The fortification was then re-roofed and re-floored, with storage rooms created for ammunition. Also, a gunnery platform was added on the roof, and a fore building was constructed. The city of York would then fall to parliamentarians, and the castle continued to be occupied as a garrison. In 1650,
Dang.
Oliver Cromwell would visit the castle and received a salute from the castle's guns. In 1665, the Quaker George Fox was imprisoned there whilst on his way to Scarborough Castle. During this time, the garrison would become extremely unpopular with the people of York, as they disliked the cost and the behaviour of the garrison.
Oh, that's cool of you.
On St George's Day in 1684, an explosion in the magazine destroyed the entire interior of Clifford's Tower. Many historians believe the explosion was not an accident, and many people in York began to toast the demolition of the castle. At the end of the 18th century, the facilities of the castle's prison were scrutinised, with them being deemed to be inadequate.
Sure.
The locals would also gather in huge numbers for executions, and this was deemed to be unacceptable. The site of execution would shift to the former castle's courtyard, and in 1813, executions were sped up by the introduction of the short drop. 14 Luddite protesters were executed in 1814 by this method here. During the 1800s, the castle would deteriorate with the King's Pool being drained. The prison would also then pass to the control of the central government, following the publication of the Prisons Act 1877. The mound and tower were then closed and became hidden from view. Clifford's Tower then only became accessible with permission gained from a magistrate. Today, the only remains of York Castle is Clifford's Tower, the keep
Wow.
which sits upon top of the motte. Today there is only Clifford's Tower which you can visit, however the Castle Museum does sit adjacent. Upon entering the tower, you are transported into a large central lobby. During the heights in which
All right, so before we continue on, I'll go back. What a very dark history this place has had. I imagine a lot of castles do have that sort of history, but this was, I mean, pretty brutal to listen to, for sure. Gosh, a lot of death. Seems like all. See, it's weird. You talk about with the Jewish people and at the beginning, at first, and even the Knights Templar. You had Cromwell, Richard III had it. All these people involved in this. This is wild. Just over history. Yeah, it's so bizarre. And it's the only thing left of York's castle. I mean, I could totally see it as a prison, and I can totally see it as a place to execute people as well. I mean, it just is very prominent up on top of that. Would they call that a motte? Am I getting that right? Interesting. Just through time, it's just bizarre to see the ebb and flow of the purpose of it, the attitudes towards it of the day. Of course, whoever's in charge. It's pretty wild.
in the tower, you are transported into a large central lobby. During the heights in which this tower was used, on the ground floor, you can see latrines and also a well. There are also a number of windows which allow you to peer out of the castle. By venturing up the stairs, you reach a chapel. This would have been a richly decorated room, and you can see today the arcading, which shows how opulent this room would have been. Inside here, the priest would say Mass and bless the castle's custodian, and also those who were garrisoned inside the castle. An aumbrey cupboard would have been in the north wall, which would have contained valuable church artefacts. Walking up to the top of Clifford's Tower, you get some superb views of the city of York and the surrounding areas. From standing upon here, you can imagine the area around as a Motte and Bailey castle. You can also see the river that runs close to the castle and would have acted as a form of defence. Also, you do gain some spectacular views of the city of York, as well as the incredible York Minster, which overlooks the horizon. Although
Really
today
cool.
there isn't much to look at inside Clifford's Tower, or much that remains of York Castle, it has an incredibly rich history. Its links to royalty date back to the Norman Conquest, and its strategic importance helped throughout history in establishing royal dominance in the north. Interestingly, the massacre and pogrom of the Jews that took place in 1190 was scarcely written about during early histories and accounts of the castle. This shows a distinct shame and an attempt to cover up the anti-Semitic attitudes that existed in medieval England. Clifford's Tower today stands guard over York. However, if you do visit, remember its significance as a place of massacre, of execution, and of royal might and power. Thank you for watching The Untold Past. To support the channel, please subscribe. Once again, thanks for watching.
Please go support The Untold Past and do what you got to do. Like, subscribe. Just like I said, one like helps a bunch. Helps a bunch. Yeah, very gruesome history to this place. And he makes a very valid point. Is, you know, you talk about the history of the Jewish people in medieval England, which you don't really hear too much about. At least I don't. But I could see if it were like just not written about, kind of like trying to hide some of that sort of thing. I'm sure there was some of that. I mean, but you know, it happens all over the world, it seems like, but it's nothing new. This is wild, though. My goodness. So dark. Please go support TheUntoldPast. It's real important that you do so. I still would like to visit. I really would. I would like to see inside Clifford's Tower. Of course, then go to the museum, which is right next door, apparently. Of course, York Minster I want to see. I mean, that video we saw in York, I loved. I thought it was really cool. Just some of the things I'd like to do. The Viking, of course, the Viking exhibit that they got going there. So many places to see. And a lot of you said there's a railway museum. Yes, that is a must-see. And a few other things you've all pointed out. So it's not just castles and Vikings. It's other things too. But it's just such a cool city that I just want to go see. Hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please go support his channel. It's so important. Hope everybody's happy, healthy, and safe. Thank you so much. That was interesting. Who knew when we were watching that last video that just little round piece of castle left had such a history. I mean, I could totally see it being a prison. It's like you're looking like at a Disney movie and you're like, oh yeah, that's where they keep everybody locked up. Pretty gnarly though. I'm glad it's still around too, so we can learn from it. Pretty cool. All right, everyone. Have a great day. We'll see you later. Bye.
Mark from the States, Mark from the States, it's Mark. Yeah.